Hello, Dome Dwellers. How's it going? So, I started a series on what permitting is, and we talked about last time what an architect plan was. So, this time we're going to talk about structural plans. Now, not every county or state requires structural plans. Here in the state of Florida, they do require it. And the reason they do is because of so many hurricanes. They have to make sure that the houses are not going to blow away, that they're not huts and going to have a problem. And likely in California, they need to make sure that they're either A, earthquake steady, or fire retardant. Though I don't believe that last one because too many houses have actually burned down. It's a good argument to have the hemp dome homes because hemp's not going to catch on fire, as we've talked about before. But again, to the structural plan. Structural plans look much like the architect plans, but they are done by, you would imagine, a structural engineer. And if they are needed, then you're going to have to hire the said structural engineer to look at your architectural plans and then ask you a series of questions. And the series of questions of what you'll need in your home or what he suggests as an engineer. You need to make sure you have that conversation with him because they can make some assumptions and start putting in circuits in your home or piping in your home that you don't necessarily want, need, or desire. And I had to deal with that with my engineer. So we had to have a conversation saying, hey, I'm going to be living off grid. I'm going to have a septic system. I'm going to have a passive water heater system. I'm going to have probably heated floors and a solar system. All these things need to be considered inside of the structural plan because you see a structural plan takes the architectural plan and beefs it up. It needs to understand, the county needs to understand all the aspects of things that are going to make the house strong, steady, and reliable. Architect plan just says, hey, I can build this. Structural plan says, is it going to be reliable? Is it going to catch on fire from the bad electrical system that's in there? Is it going to flood because of the bad plumbing system that's in there? Is the foundation going to fall apart because you didn't put the foundation in correctly? Is the roof going to come off because you didn't put the right roof trusses in? Or is the house going to blow over because you didn't put it on the foundation correctly? That's what a structural plan is about. So a good structural engineer is worth their weight in gold. There is no doubt about that. Thankfully, I found a structural engineer that would do my plan for a decent price. The world has gone crazy, and architect plans and structural plans now, at least in the state of Florida, can cost in between $6,000 and $8,000 for each set. And that gets pretty pricey when you start putting in the price of your home. So I found somebody who was able to do it for this much, but that's just with the promise of that you are going to be buying domes a little bit later, and I can send you to him, and we'll have lots of business and somebody who's already familiar with dome shapes and dome structures. So for my home, as an example, give you a couple ideas of what the structural plan included. It included things like I needed a 50 amp circuit, a couple of them, and a 30 amp circuit. Most homes have a 20 amp circuit that runs the house. And everything you plug in, with the exception of maybe the dedicated circuit for the stove and the dryer, those types of things need higher requirements. But everything else needs just basically 20 amps. So I needed it because I know somewhere in the future I'm going to be doing lots of builds, lots of self-sustainable training things. I'm going to have RVs in the system that require 50 amp circuits because they have 2 ACs in them. So I knew this in the future that I'm going to be doing some stuff. So I need right up front saying, hey, I know I need dedicated 30 and 50 amp circuits. Also for my system, I knew that my home doesn't do well with normal ducting systems for AC and heating. So I had to tell him that I'm using mini splits inside of my system, and the mini split piping that goes through the walls to the mini split from the system on the ground is about as big as my finger. So it goes through the system, it goes through the walls, and up the walls until it meets the bedrooms, it meets all the places where the mini splits are going to be. So we had to have those types of conversations. If you had a normal AC system, then he needs to know that you know, or the builder knows, how big the ducts need to be, where they need to be, how they need to be insulated, and those types of things. But again, for mine, we didn't have to worry about that. Again, I'm doing a off-grid system, and so a passive water heater system. So I didn't need big circuits for this because I'm using the heat of the sun to heat my water, and I'll be putting that in a big 80 to 100 gallon water tank. If the sun doesn't come for 2 or 3 or 4 days, highly unlikely in the sunshine state, but if it does happen, then I'll have a backup propane heater. And so I need no electricity to run my water system. Now I'll be generating my own propane because I'll have a home biogas system that I'll be putting all my produce and waste into this big bag, and this bag generates methane gas, form of methane gas, and that gas can be used to power my water system whenever it's needed. It'll power a few other things too, but that's just an example of off-grid living, and you don't have to worry about or rely on the system providing gas or electricity, because you know your highest cost in the home is, number one, the AC. Number two, it's your hot water. Hot water, because in old-fashioned tanks, the water gets cold and then needs to be heated up. And this happens all day long. Now, the better insulated it is, the less often that happens, and that's the efficiency they're talking about in your water heaters. How efficient is it that the water's not dropping in temperature too fast? And that's what the package is all about. So I am going to be doing a system that is big, 80 to 100 gallons. Most homes have 50 to 70 gallon. And if you're in an efficiency place, like 30 to 50 gallon. So I'll be doing 80 to 100 gallons. So that'll provide me long lasting showers, and make sure that I can do showers in 2 rooms, or do the dishes and shower, whatever you might want. And even later, if I want to do the in-floor heating, that system can providing heat for the in-floor system as well. So again, this is all structural talk. This is all structural engineering. These are things that they need to know. They need to know about the septic system. Are you going to be piping into the city? If you are, do you have the right size pipes? Is the slope good enough? If the slope's not right, and then your sludge gets caught in everything, that's not going to be good. So they need to design a system that everything flows properly. So for me, we're doing a septic system with a water outlet, and I'll actually be doing urine in a separate system to do plants and those types of things. So those are all conversations that I had to have with both the county and the engineer. Now again, the structural engineer is good for everybody, but not every county requires it. Most do, but not everyone does. It'll provide a wealth of information though, guys. It provides foundation, how big, how thick it needs to be. Does it need pylons in it? Or is the area you're in, is it good, and a slab on grade will be fine? My area, because we're in sand, slab on grade's not quite good enough, and I need to put pylons that are a little bit deeper than the foundation itself. So then I'll have more stability for my dome frame. And my foundation is going to be round. I'm not going to have a square one. It'll be exact same size as the dome. A little smaller, actually, so the dome can go over it and water can go over it. And so I can put a water drainage system on the bottom of the dome. Again, this was all stuff that was talked about inside the structural engineering plans. So they also, in my regard, need to talk about upstairs and downstairs. Is it strong enough to support that? And the porch that's outside, is the porch going to be strong enough, or is it going to be too unstable? So we had to talk about how deep the post needed to be, How wide? Do they need to be concrete? Can it be wood, or does it have to be metal? We talked about all these things. And so now I have the answer, and I have all those answers that I can give to the builder, which in this case is myself, and I can give to my county, and the county goes, okay, you know what you're talking about. Now make sure you do it. Make sure you make the foundation this thick, and make sure you put the pylons in, and make sure you do this. If you don't, you're going to have to A, tear it all up, do it again, or B, have this reworked until it fits what you just did. And hopefully what you just did fits to code. So that's what structural engineering is all about. It's about code. It's about making sure your house is nice and strong, steady, and it's not going to flood. It's not going to catch on fire. It's not going to do all these things. So this is required for my county permitting. It's finished. The next thing I'll talk about is HVAC. I kind of alluded to it already because I don't need the standard systems, but that's a separate thing for the county. And I'll talk about HVAC next, which includes energy efficiency calculations for the home, because the homes need to pass blower test. They need to make sure that heat doesn't go out or in too fast. That's what the R value is, and a bunch of other things. So that's coming next. So guys, I'll be here pretty soon building my home, but I'll be asking for a little bit of help from each one of you, and I'll have future videos for that, volunteers, some fundraising, and some other stuff that'll be going on. So that'll be happening pretty soon. But I'm kind of lighting the fire right now to let you know that the build is getting close. But we've had a couple road bumps along the way that I'll tell you about, and to see if you understand, and maybe we can work with each other. So anyway, may your next home be a dome home. Peace out.